Hey everybody, welcome back to my top 10 games of 2011. This is numbers 6 through 4. I hope you enjoy. Coming in at number 6, another game that I didn't expect to like as much as I did, Rayman Origins. I'm going to go ahead and just make an official statement right now. This is the best 2D platformer of this gaming generation. Yes, it's better than New Super Mario Bros. Wii, or, well, that's pretty much its only competition. Oh no, Donkey Kong Country Returns. I think it's better than that. This game just honestly it blew me away. Rayman is a franchise that I would consider myself a fan of. I played the first one on the original PlayStation. I played the second one on N64, and I played the third one, which no one else has played apparently, but I think is a pretty darn good game on the GameCube. And I really liked the core games, and Rayman 2 is one of my favorite games ever. And then they started doing Rayman. They did the Rabbids thing, and then the Rabbids sort of took over. And then Michel Ancel, the creator of Rayman, just sort of stuck with Rabbids for what seemed like an eternity, for what seemed like the entire lifespan, no, for what literally was the entire lifespan of the Wii, because that thing's like on its way out now. And I wasn't on board. I didn't think they were particularly endearing or funny as much as everyone else did. I just thought they were kind of dumb looking. And I missed Rayman. I liked Rayman a lot. I thought his games were pretty good. Some people consider them to be sort of pedestrian in the platformer world, but I think that they're pretty good games. And when they announced Rayman Origins, I was pretty darn pumped. The screenshots looked really cool. They look like a cartoon. And there was a little bit of a worry back there because when a game starts looking really really good, like a cartoon, and there's really smooth animations, sometimes that gums up the gameplay. And let me just tell you that the animations in this game are so smooth. I mean, they literally just look like a cartoon, but the gameplay is so spot on and precise that I played the first level and all worries were immediately gone. The First of all, the game looks beautiful. I mean, the colors and the textures look so great. You get up close to your screen and you notice that your characters kick up tiny little pieces of grass, and it's just like those little attentions to detail. Characters' faces will contort when they're surprised or happy, and it's just a really goofy, fun, whimsical experience. I mean, look at this going on there on the cover. What is all this down here? What is that craziness? That's the kind of craziness that you will encounter in Rayman Origins. You can play this with up to 4 people, just like New Super Mario Bros. Wii, and let the madness ensue. You can smack people into pits and stuff like that, although it's a little less frustrating because there's no lives in this game. Can you believe that? Finally, someone understands that the lives system that Nintendo specifically, is addicted to with platformers is worthless. You don't need lives. I mean, if you die, you're going to start the next level. You're just going to start the level over again. So why not just get rid of lives entirely? And this game gets that. And, when you die, there's not some huge death animation or game over, oh, you lost a life and it takes 10 seconds. I mean, it's just 10 seconds, but it takes 10 seconds for you to get back in the game. No, you die, you respawn. Boom, really fast. The whole level loads at once, and it just keeps really fast paced. There's not like power ups or anything like that. Oh, okay, there are a few power ups. There's like a super fist power up. Basically, there's just really simple collectibles that you don't have to go out of your way to get. It doesn't seek to distract you too much. You can just play the levels and see them for what they are. There are some really super hard levels later that play out like levels of Super Meat Boy, where you have to chase these treasure chests that jump, and you have to basically it requires exactly precise jumps. And for someone who's addicted to that kind of thing, who loves being tortured by a game with very high standards for platforming, it was just great. And it's a hard game. I mean, there's an optional final world level, whatever you want to call it, that is just brutal. But I loved every last masochistic second of it. I 100%ed this game. I 101%ed this game in like 5 days. I was so addicted to it. I played it constantly. Yeah, It's really, really good. Also, the soundtrack's great. The voice acting is just gibberish mixed with Pig Latin, and the music is fun and expressive and cute, and it fits the experience. And if you are a fan of platformers, you are doing yourself a huge disservice by missing out on Rayman Origins. It's a sleeper game. Not a lot of people have heard about it, but I hope you have, and I hope you'll play it now because the game is really phenomenal. Yeah, that's the end of that spiel. That was number 6. All right, top 5 territory. Let me just say that these 5 games, this is a reflection of how good 2011 is. These 5 games are better than any game that came out in 2010, and I really mean that. So, here we go. The order here is pretty nebulous. It was hard for me to rank these against each other, but I had to. So here we go. Starting at number 5 is Uncharted 3, Drake's Deception. I love the Uncharted series. I think it is, in terms of just a story that it's really easy to relate to and characters that are so easy to fall in love with, I think you cannot beat the Uncharted franchise. Nathan Drake, as the main character, has quickly become one of my favorite characters in gaming. I just think he's expressive, and he's sort of a new age Indiana Jones that is just really identifiable. And some people, I think, like Yahtzee from Zero Punctuation in particular, thinks he's a bit of a douche wagon. But I really like the guy. I like all the supporting characters. I like Sully, who gets a lot of screen time in this game. I like Elena. I like Chloe. I even like the new Jason Statham character they got for this one. And the villain in this game, I think, is their best villain yet, whereas the previous 2 villains were basically just angry foreign dudes that would just stab you if you looked at them the wrong way. This antagonist is more of a psychological antagonist. She gets in your brain, and, you never really, there's not really any. She's not a very physical enemy, so you don't really fight her one-on-one too much, but she's present throughout the whole experience, and she's impossible to ignore, and I just think she's the best villain of the trilogy. As far as the game goes, it's more of the same. It's a mixture of, kind of Tomb Raider style, but better platforming, mixed with cover-based shooting, and whenever you're tired of one, it'll switch to the next. I will say that this game is not as good as Uncharted 2. For the big reason is because Uncharted 2 blew you away because it was so much better than the first game. Whereas you can't get much better than Uncharted 2, so this game it was impossible to make a game that hit as hard as Uncharted 2 because it was just a sequel. And so it lives in the shadow of its predecessor a little bit. But that's okay with me. There are a few missteps this time. I felt like there were a few segments that were maybe a little more annoying than anything else, like the swimming, like when you're swimming in the sort of the ship graveyard, and you're not really sure if you're supposed to be stealthy or if you're supposed to attack the enemies, and then you stealthily attack an enemy, and by some magical shared consciousness, all the other enemies instantly know where you are and start shooting at you. And I was a little annoyed at that, I guess. But that was the only segment. And again, the graphics are gorgeous. Some of the best, most realistic visuals I've ever seen. They each have their fortes. The first game, water looked great, and then they took on snow and it looked great. This time, it's sand. And there's actually bonus movies on this little Blu-ray here, where they actually go to these sand dunes to see how sand works, to study the way sand is, how it's sort of fluid. And, the way it reacts when you step in it, or the way it falls down a sand dune when you're walking across the top of a sand dune is so realistic. I feel like I'm there. There are these shots that happen at one moment in the game that I don't want to spoil, where it pans out really wide and you get a sense of the scope of this game. And just a gorgeous game. And once again, the set piece moments. Oh, I love the set piece moments. No one does set piece moments like Naughty Dog. I don't want to ruin too many, but I to explain it. There's one where you're in a cruise ship in the middle of a storm, and it's tossing and turning, and the whole ship really is moving, and your character reacts realistically, and the chandeliers in the ballroom in this cruise ship swing. And then the very next level, the ship starts to sink. And basically, the entire previous level has been turned on its side, literally, and you escape this tidal wave, and it's just so super epic. And that's just one of many. There's one where you're like falling out of the back of a plane. I mean, I don't want to ruin any more set pieces. I only ruined a couple, but they are so great, and they're the kind of things where you just want to talk about them. As soon as you do them, you're like, man, I got to talk to somebody about this because it was so cool, and it was no different with Uncharted 3. I think it should be a capper to a trilogy. I don't think they should go too much farther. I think 3 games is pretty good. It begins to feel a little bit samey, like sort of a been there, done that, but not too much. I think the game is again really stands out, and it's a must-own for PS3 people. And yeah, Uncharted 3. What can I say? It's a great game. All right, and number 4, last one for this video, is Batman Arkham City. I think the thing I was most impressed about this game was that I loved Batman Arkham Asylum. I loved that game. I thought the atmosphere was spot on. There were so many awesome segments, like the Scarecrow segments where you're like augmented reality. It's just like, they're so cool. And I thought the combat was great and the stealth was great. I thought it was so good. But this game, the list of things it managed to find to improve on is baffling. I can't believe how many things they found to make better in this game. That's the thing that most impresses me about this game. The combat is better because now you can counter like 3 guys at once by hitting the counter button 3 times in quick succession. There are even more cool bat gadgets, and the open world, you just get immersed in it, and you can travel through it really fast and efficiently. And there are more villains. I mean, the Batman villains are like obviously like the best part of the Batman universe, and there's like so many Batman villains all crammed in here. And the storyline is fast and frantic, and you feel like you need to pay attention to the main story. But then the game constantly distracts you with side missions, and that would be annoying if the side missions weren't also so awesome and all based around these, different super villains, if you will. And I think the entire experience, beginning to end, I think it's the perfect execution of an idea. The idea, of course, to make a game finally worthy of Batman, and I thought that Arkham Asylum was the best execution possible, but they made it even better. This is the perfect Batman game. It's probably the best licensed game, and it's certainly the best game you will ever see that has WB games on the front. That's for sure. There are even segments where you can play as Catwoman, and they're not as good, and you have to buy the game. You have to buy the game new in order to get that because there's a code, and that's a little bit cheap in my. But whatever, buy the game new, pay the people who deserve to be paid. Yeah, the Catwoman segments aren't as good, but I still really really like them. It's a change of pace. And there were nice breaks from the story at times. But obviously, the centerpiece here is getting to play as Batman, getting to step in those shoes again. And, moving it to a bigger world is a risky move, because obviously you have to deal with, getting around. It was easy to get around in Arkham Asylum, but Arkham Asylum was a pretty small game world. And they say that this game world is 5 times larger than Arkham Asylum was, and I believe them. But with this awesome thing called the grapnel boost, you can essentially grapple to a place, far ahead of you, boost over it, glide, grapnel again, boost over it, glide, and just traverse the entire city in a minute. And you really go super far. And, sometimes there'll be an enemy on the ground, and then you can, dive down into him and just take him out. And once again, the combat flows really nicely, and the stealth works really well, and they really managed to perfect it. One of my problems with the original, I guess, was the boss battles were a little samey. They were like, fake out this gigantic guy hitting a wall, and then you can do damage to him. That happened like a dozen times. But the boss battles in this game are each really unique. Like there's Like there's one with a certain villain that I don't want to spoil, where you have to approach him stealthily. And each time you approach him stealthily and do a little bit of damage, he uses his abilities to eliminate that option from you. So the next time you have to approach him stealthily in a different fashion. And it really it forces you to look at all of your options. And it was like the first time I realized that, man, not the first time, but it really forces you to realize that, man, the possibilities really are endless. And let me just say, the ending to this game is probably one of the most shocking endings to a game I have ever seen. Sort of poetic, considering all things considered. Aesthetically, the game is graphically beautiful, really, really sharp. The soundtrack is great, subtle, works perfectly, and it's some of the best voice acting. I mean, when you got Kevin Conroy's Batman and the inimitable Mark Hamill as Joker in his last performance, sadly, as Joker. Uh, you know, how can you beat it, really? And Batman Arkham City is something that anybody, and you really don't even have to like Batman to like this game. You just have to like video games. Knowledge of the source material is not a prerequisite for enjoying this game. It's simply something that must be played, and you must play it. Batman Arkham City. All right, last part, part 4, coming soon. Stay tuned.